Okay, guys, so today we're going to go over transitions and how to transition between paragraphs. I think it's super useful that you learn how to do transitions properly because they help to cause your whole essay to have like a flow to it, and also helps to relate ideas that you're trying to explain much better because it kind of leads into them. And yeah. So here we just have a kind of a depiction of all the different transitional words and phrases that commonly come up in the majority of paragraphs that you kind of have these transitions in. So you can see they break them up into different categories of addition, argument, cause and effect, contrast, illustration, space, summary, and time. So these are all kind of just different ways that you can transition in between paragraphs, and this is kind of how you would start off your sentences. So if you have something contrasting between two paragraphs, you could start off with however, or nevertheless, or nonetheless, or on the contrary. And so I think this is a good kind of chart for you guys to have. And if you ever kind of stuck on making a transition between two paragraphs or within a paragraph itself, I think it's a good thing to use one of these charts like this, and it can kind of help you get you out of that kind of rut that you're in. So here we have kind of an example of a transition in a concluding sentence, and so this is the if-then structure. So it starts off with if we are deciding that the climate change is now unavoidable, then steps must be taken to avert complete disaster. So it's kind of just if, and then you complete with that clause, and then it goes with then this will happen. So that's kind of an easy like common transition you can have whenever you're concluding a paragraph, and so this is the kind of sentence you would use. So another kind of concluding sentence that you can have is where you compare the idea in the current paragraph with the idea in the next. So this is that kind of transition with a little bit of conclusion because you're ending the first paragraph. So an example that we have here is while the Democratic Republic of Congo is rich in natural resources, comma, it has led a troubled political existence. So the first paragraph would be focusing on the Democratic Republic of Congo being rich in natural resources, and so they listed their evidence before that, and so that just kind of summarizes the point of that paragraph. And then I'm assuming here that the next paragraph would go into the troubled political existence of the Republic of Congo, and so that's how they kind of segued into it, and this was a good transition to use. Now, another way to kind of transition information throughout your essay is to use pointing words. And so these kind of act like quote unquote hooks, and they kind of link information throughout the paper together. So here's an example. So it goes, there is nothing overtly deviant about the poem's formal elements, but upon close examination, those intricacies of form are even more suggestive of a problem in the island hierarchy than is the content of Caliban's speech. So the example, the pointing word here in this example is those intricacies. That's the so it says so it starts with but upon close examination, those intricacies of form are even more suggestive of a problem. So that kind of relates other information earlier in the paper to this kind of relevant topic here. So here we have our examples of making our own transitions. So I think it's a good thing to go over these examples. So the first one is it gives you kind of a sentence, and then it's going to give you kind of another key note in the next paragraph or a paragraph before this, and it wants you to try and transition into it. And so the example starts with overall, Management Systems International has logged increased sales in every sector, leading to a significant rise in third quarter profits. Another important thing to note is that the corporation had expanded its international influence. And then so the revision is overall, Management System International has logged increased sales in every sector, leading to a significant rise in third quarter profits. And then it goes on. These impressive profits are largely due to the corporation's expanded international influence. So what they did there is they acknowledged the previous kind of paragraph with these impressive profits, and then they moved on to kind of segue into the next topic, which is expanded international influence. So they did that through that pointer word right there, these. So yeah, that's a good transition. Our next example question is fearing for the loss of the Danish lands. Christian IV signed the Treaty of Lubeck, effectively ending the Danish phase of the 30 Years' War. And so the additional information here is
But then something else significant happened. The Swedish intervention began. So the revision for this to make it kind of a transition would be fearing for the loss of the more Danish lands. Christian IV signed the Treaty of Lubeck, effectively ending the Danish phase of the 30 Years' War. Shortly after Danish forces withdrew, the Swedish intervention began. So that's kind of just changing it up, but they're kind of including the information of that Swedish intervention, and then also kind of acknowledging that the Danish forces left, which was like the prior information. So that's a good transition there. Another example we have here is Amy Tan became a famous author after her novel The Joy Luck Club skyrocketed up the bestseller list. And the additional information is there are other things to note about Tan as well. Amy Tan also participates in the satirical garage band The Rock Bottom Remainders with Stephen King and Dave Barry. So the revision here is Amy Tan became a famous author after her novel The Joy Luck Club skyrocketed up the bestseller list. And then the transition here is, though her fiction is well known, her work with the satirical garage band The Rock Bottom Remainders receives far less publicity. So that's a good transition there through the though and then the comma.
All right, guys, so that's what I have for you on transitions. I think transitions are super important for writing essays, and I hope you guys kind of develop this skill as much as you can. All right, see you in the next video.